Imagine a nation frozen in time, its heartbeat stilled not by external threat, but by political impasse. On October 1st, 2025, as the new fiscal year dawned, the United States government entered its longest shutdown in history. For 43 days, the halls of power fell silent, offices closed, and nearly 900,000 federal employees were furloughed without pay. Another 2 million soldiers of the federal workforce worked under a looming shadow of uncertainty, their dedication tested as paychecks vanished. Across the country, services ground to a halt, national parks locked, museums dark, vital food assistance programs left in jeopardy. Airports swarmed with stranded travelers, thousands of flights were canceled, professions disrupted, the fabric of daily Americana frayed under the weight of political brinkmanship. This was no sudden catastrophe, but the inevitable crescendo of months-long gridlock. Fierce battles erupted in congressional chambers where partisan divide deepened. Republicans, tightly controlling the House, insisted on budget measures excluding healthcare subsidies critical to millions. Democrats, steadfast and vocal, demanded their reinstatement, framing the subsidies as a lifeline for vulnerable families. President Donald Trump's involvement oscillated between hardline bargaining and calls for a great deal, yet progress seemed elusive. Public statements rang with blame, accusations exchanged, while behind closed doors, negotiations churned without resolution. The people watched as the nation's machinery slowly seized a democracy paralyzed by its own leaders. As the calendar flipped on, the stakes rose higher. SNAP food aid payments, crucial for 42 million Americans, were delayed, casting innumerable families into the threat of hunger's uncertainty. Federal health agencies, National Institutes of Health, and Centers for Disease Control scaled back research and safety inspections, casting future preparedness into doubt. The military, legally barred from paying personnel without appropriations, relied on emergency funding appeals and private donor generosity to keep troops afloat, an unprecedented display of systemic strain. Families, dependent employees, and small communities faced mounting anxieties as the shutdown stretched on. The crisis transcended fiscal numbers. It was a deeply human ordeal. Public confidence waned as the shutdown dragged deeper. Political analysts questioned the resilience of governance amid such persistent impasse. Social media buzzed with anxious voices. Government workers marched in protest. Advocates rallied to highlight the cost of stalemate. Headlines screamed governmental failure. Protests erupted, painting a grim portrait of division and dysfunction. Meanwhile, the American economy panted under stress. Consumer confidence plummeted. Small businesses dependent on government contracts struggled. The stock market wavered, reacting nervously. Yet within the turmoil, fragile moments of bipartisan dialogue flickered. By early November, as the shutdown approached 6 weeks, mounting pressure softened rigid stances. Senators from both sides sought compromise, recognizing the growing national toll. Temporary proposals circulated, revisions made in tense backroom sessions. Negotiators faced a race against time not only to prevent further economic damage, but to restore faith in government. Finally, on November 10th, a breakthrough arrived. The Senate passed a revised spending bill by narrow margins. The House swiftly followed, signaling an end to the deadlock. That evening, President Trump entered the Oval Office under glaring cameras. Holding a pen that would breathe life back into government, he declared, "It's a great day for America. Relief washed over the country. Federal agencies reopened. Worker paychecks resumed. Healing wounds that had run deep." But this signing was not an end, but a pause in a wider story. It was a moment for reflection on the fragility of compromise in an era of heightened polarization. The break came with lingering questions. How did governance unravel so thoroughly? What systemic reforms might avert future shutdowns? And how would millions recover from lost wages, delayed services, and erosion of trust? This shutdown was more than budgetary failure. It was a mirror reflecting fractures in trust, institutions, and civic unity. The costs were enormous, not just billions in economic loss, but the intangible toll of frayed social contracts. Families struggling to pay bills, veterans threatened with vanished benefits, scientists halted mid-research. The American ideal of steadfast government, even amid disagreement, felt tenuous, fragile. As federal offices flickered back to life and agencies resumed their missions, the nation absorbed powerful lessons. Political leaders pledged greater responsibility, yet the specter of division loomed large. Democracy demands more than votes, it demands dialogue, empathy, and unity. The longest government shutdown in U.S. history closed not simply with legislation, but with sober clarity about the cost of division. It was a story of endurance and vulnerability, power and its limits, leadership and its burdens. The government's gears, once stalled, began to move forward stronger, hopefully wiser. Because governance is more than budgets. It is the lifeblood linking a people to their shared future. A great nation demands nothing less than trust restored and renewed.